All right, I'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Public comments. No one's here for that, so we're going to move on to our new business approval of the preliminary budget.
Okay, so in your packet, there's quite a bit of stuff in there. We're just going to hit some high points. First off, want to compliment Mrs. Karnick, who is here tonight. We've been in a crunch here. The preliminary budget was not started when we started July here, so Mrs. Karnick has been instrumental with all her background knowledge. We sat together quite a bit over the last week and a half, doing a lot, and her ability to get right to the, what is this fund, what does this number mean, and kick right to it has been absolutely instrumental. So there's no way it would have been able to get done, which was quite a feat this fast without her. So
it was a brain. Scott Thompson.
Yeah. So anyway, so if you flip in, so we've got just for reference, a few things in here, the timeline of, so just a reminder, so this is the preliminary budget. What we're looking at tonight is just the initial, our best estimate, and then it will become more, and then this is also what we approved tonight is what will be presented at the annual meeting in August, on August 22nd. Part of the annual meeting is a budget hearing, and this budget that we approved tonight will be what's presented there. And it is a best estimate. There are a lot of variables that we don't know yet. So after the school year begins, we get to the third Friday count, then we will know our pupil count, our real pupil count. Right now we have an estimate based on what we know of returning students and open enrollment estimates. So we'll have a real pupil count, we'll have real open enrollment numbers. Kids can apply, or families apply, open enroll in, but it doesn't mean they should, until they actually show up, we don't count them. Or who open enrolls out. We have people that open enroll out but then don't go, and so on. So, and then also the state aids estimate will change after the school year starts too, based on the pupil count. So there's a big pot of money statewide that the districts share, and that gets figured with pupil counts and across the state. So once we know those actual numbers, then what we do in October is we come back together, we adopt a final budget with real revenue numbers when we know our actual revenues, and then that's what gets filed in early November with the state, with the DPI. So what we're doing tonight is our best estimate, but this is something that is required for us to do. The next page on there, if you flip to, it says Clear Lake funds. This is just a good little reference of what the different funds are in our budget. The big one is Fund 10. That's the vast majority of our budget, and we'll go through those. And then the next page is the historical tax levy and mill rate. And so this is the big question. So, we talked about last year with the planning that was done. Dr. Ernst talked about the fact that we can pass this referendum and we will be able to keep our mill rate flat or have it go down slightly, and we are able to deliver on that with the estimates that we have here. And I'm confident that that's with pretty conservative budgeting. I'm very confident that we're going to be able to deliver on that for sure. So projecting a mill rate of 9.27. And I can just show you this. So this next page on here, this Department of Public Instruction revenue limit worksheet. You don't want me to go through this with you, because it'll take. It's very, very complicated. But there's 2 pages to it. So the first page is down in the lower left. Those with the 19, 20, 21, and 20, 21, 22. Those are that's how we figure out a 3-year rolling average with our student counts. Okay, then that it all funnels into the formula on the right and calculates forward. The big point of it, if you turn the page to the right, just a couple of things that I'll point out is that the very top yellow number, 10,000, that's basically our low revenue ceiling, they call it. So that's our dollars per pupil that we get. Yeah, on the second page, everybody's on there. That's a key number, and you just go down a little bit. There's another yellow number, 800,000. That's our referendum. Okay, so that number is now in there, and that's a permanent recurring revenue item. And if you skim down to the bottom, so you see where it's at the very, very bottom of the sheet where it says levy rate equals, and you see 0.00926671. Okay, so that is where our mill rate number is coming from. So this is the amount of local taxes that we were allowed to levy based on the state formula. So I just wanted you to see that, so I'm not just making stuff up or pulling a number out of thin air. Where does this 9.27 come from? It's from this revenue limit formula. So everything that we were projecting and hoping for comes together like we hoped it would, and we'll, like I said, once we get our real revenue numbers, this will get adjusted and change a little bit, but it's pretty conservatively figured right now. So, all right.
What is the declining enrollment exemption?
So that is, are you on the first? or
Yeah,
second
I mean, I see
page?
the math, but I guess.
So that's,
what does it mean?
you get a cushion, so when you have your enrollment going down, you get a cushion that's factored in on that 3-year rolling average so you don't get, all of a sudden, let's say you drop 20 kids, you don't lose $200,000.
Okay.
You lose it slowly. It cushions the blow over a number of years. Yep.
Gotcha.
Great question. Yeah, great question. So, like I said, the revenue limit worksheet is very complex. So if we flip to the page full of all the lines and numbers, so this worksheet here, so this looks a little bit different than the budget adoption worksheet that we've had the last couple of years. But as you can see, so there's the 4 columns there, A, B, C, and D. So B, you can see, is the audited 2020-21 numbers. Those are actual numbers that have been audited from 2 years ago. 21-22, that's the school year the fiscal year we just completed. So those numbers, those are our expenses from this past year that's unaudited. Okay, so there's still a few transactions maybe that might come in, or some checks that get cut or whatever, and so that's unaudited. And then D is our budget. So again, this is our projection. It's our plan. It's not set in stone. So this document several pages. So you notice if you just preview ahead, the first fund is Fund 10, and the Fund 10 is the beast. That's the huge one. That's where most of the budget is. So the first main section up there is this first page is all revenues. So this is where our revenues come from. So our beginning fund balance is $1.416 million, and then you can see that from 21-22 a little bit of a surplus, just about $35,000 from last year that we left in there. We did do some fund transfers to 46 here at the end of the year, but leaving a little bit of a surplus in there to build up a little bit of Fund 10 balance. You don't want to do too much because then it hurts your state aid. But anyway, projecting a balanced budget. So the local sources are our local taxes, the $1.687 million there. If you get down to line 20, where it says payment for services, and it's $491,548, that is open enrollment in. So that is other students from other districts. They get to count them, but then when we figure out which kids go where, they make a payment to us on a per pupil basis based on how many kids, and it's a set number by the state. It's $13,000 some dollars.
So
we got like 400 kids going outside of our district?
Nope, it's this is open enrollment in. This is kids coming in. And the number I don't have. It's about.
Isn't it 8,300?
Okay.
They're not
It was-
special ed and.
Yeah, 8,300 for non-special ed and 13,000 for special ed. Yep. And as far as I gotta just in my handwork here. Number of in is about projected for next year is about 50. No, let's see. About just under 60 kids in, and number out is 91 kids out. So we have a deficit. I'll get to that later under the expenditure side. So that's something that's a big picture thing for us to be looking at.
Has that number changed a lot over the last few years as far as
It has gotten
8,300?
it is
1 seems high.
I don't know if that's changed.
it's gradually gone up just a little bit. The number of kids, our deficit of kids open enrolling out has increased the last couple of years. So that's something that we've got to address. So
Question,
Yep.
Chris, sorry. On the tax slips, if we got a 9.27 mill rate, the same math we did last year, will the $800,000 referendum be included in that, or will that be
It
a
is.
separate? So if we hadn't passed the $800,000 referendum, our mill rate would have been 6 point something.
No, and I'll kind of get to that too when we look at the Fund 38 or Fund 39. Sorry, we over levied last year. We had if you remember, we refinanced and saved about $600,000, I think.
That's a lot.
A year?
Not a year, I think total.
Over the.
And then we took some of that, and then last year that allowed us to, Dr. Ernst over levied Fund 39 by several $100,000. So $600,000, and kept our mill rate steady, because you want your mill rate to stay pretty, you don't want it bouncing up and down every other year. And so now this year we're not over
600,000 to 800.
Yeah, so it's more of a $200,000 difference or increase.
Oh,
Yeah, great question. Yep. Yeah. So that's why we're able to keep it. That's why we're able to keep it pretty flat and steady. So yeah, that one number, open enrollment in. Some of the other, if we go down the other sources of funds here, some of the bigger ones, you get down to state sources. There's also it's like categorical aids. It's like sparsity aids, something that we get. The big one is line 34 on the first budget sheet. Line 34, state aid general. That's $5.2 million. That's where the majority of our funding comes from, is from the state, based on pupil count and the formula. You can also see under that on line 37, they still have SAGE on here. It's AGR, but it's the AGR grant, but they still call it SAGE, so kind of funny. But anyway, you see the total state source is $6.1 million is where the majority of our budget comes from, and then you can see up above where we have the first group, this first subtotal 1.687 is our local taxes.
So when you go through this, or when you've gone through this, did you see any spots where there's room for improvement or anything like that? Or?
Well, I think us going through it as fast as we needed to in order to accomplish it. I mean, we went through every line, so I brought this down for effect. So, these are all the funds. Like Fund 10 goes to. Not far. You can see that's like Fund 10 is most of this pile, and then all the rest of the funds are these. And so that was what Lori and I going through. We basically went through every line. So we were going fast, and again, I give credit to Lori. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have been able to go that fast, and for her to be able to identify, yep, that's what that is,
Right.
and project forward. So there's definitely things that I learned going through and looking at with a different lens now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely strategic things that I think we're doing. I don't know, I'll leave it at that. I would say I didn't have enough time to do
Sure.
a lot of
I was
total deep
curious.
analysis on it.
I'm
yeah.
not saying you have to
Yeah.
answer that. I was just
Yeah.
curious if
No,
anything
that's
popped
and
up.
that's what we always got to keep doing, right?
Yeah.
No. On page 2 of the preliminary budget, so you can see total revenue. So everyone see where page 2 is. On the upper right hand corner, 8.545 is the total revenue for Fund 10, and then you can scoot down to the bottom of that and you see the expenditures, 8.545 million. One other big item of note there. So if we look at expenditures, so if we go up to the dark gray line where it says expenditures, so just to understand, undifferentiated curriculum, that refers to elementary classrooms. Regular curriculum refers to secondary classrooms, where it's math, science, social studies. Vocational will be career and tech ed areas. Physical education is physical curriculum. So it's just unique how it's just how they code, and that's what makes the budgeting complicated. You don't just say, well, how much do our teachers cost? You have to break it out by what type of teacher. We break it out by what type of teacher and what building do they work in, elementary, middle, high school. So it's a lot of detail. Let's see, support services, what was the one I wanted to point out there? Non-program transactions. So if you look at line 78, you can see interfund transfers. So this is where, the big one is every year we take money and at the end of the year, we put it towards our Fund 27, our special ed fund. We take it out of Fund 10 and we put it in 27 to make 27 balance, because we never get enough state and federal money to pay for all the special ed expenses. So that's $640,000, which is similar to what it was last year. So we have budgeted a $640,000 transfer into Fund 27. And then we also did budget with a surplus of $100,000, $50,000 going into Fund 46, which is our maintenance budget, our rainy day, fixing a roof thing, like we're doing now, and also $50,000 into Fund 38, which is our debt service, which would allow us to pay down some debt sooner. So as we go through the year, we, being conservative with how we budgeted again, we made sure that we put in enough cushion, should we say. Like, we're looking at vastly increasing fuel prices for utilities, energy, things like that. So technology. So we put in some, funds into those areas, projecting, maybe prevent some deferred maintenance, things like that. We also, last year, we were supposed to buy a school bus. We weren't able to. We tried to, and they weren't able to deliver it to us because of, logistics and things. So I budgeted 2 buses in for next year because we're kind of behind one. So that's again an opportunity with some of the referendum money that gives us this a little bit more cushion. We're able to do that. Also, of course, the staff salaries were vastly increased, so that's well over $200,000 difference. That's a big part of that too. So. So if we have a good year, again, we budgeted pretty conservatively. So if we have a good year, there may very well be at the end of the year that we have a budget surplus due to the positive effects of the referendum. And then at that point, we'll have some decisions to make about possibly, again, prepaying debt, possibly putting money into Fund 46 and building that back up. Basically, we're spending it all down with the roof project. So if we want to start building that back up now, we probably have the opportunity to do that here in the next few years with the referendum. So that's Fund 10. That's the big one.
Is there anything expiring? Like any of those funds that expire?
What do you mean by that? Like,
Is there like next? I thought I heard there was. Maybe I heard him wrong, Mr. Ernst. There was some certain funds that are expiration funds.
Might be talking about ESSER funds, maybe.
ESSER.
Yeah. So that's a whole other factor here too. Is we've got ESSER money to spend.
46 doesn't expire.
46 doesn't expire.
Okay.
No, that's what's neat about 46 is that was created about 6 years ago. The state allowed us to now take that money and put it in 46 to be used just for not operations, for facilities, and because it used to be if you didn't spend down your budget, basically you lost the revenue the next year. And so that's really been a blessing to have that. Again, that's what allowed us to do the roof without a referendum. So.
You might want to mention 79, row 79. Open enrollment.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, row 79, that is the other side of open enrollment. And that is open enrollment out. So kids who are open enrolled out, on the revenue side, we count those kids because they're Clear Lake students, so we count them. But then when they actually open enroll out, then we pay that $8,300 per kid or $13,000 per kid if they're in special education. So this is that hit right there. So that's a very
Part of that
big
too
chunk
is
going
also
on.
Students that go to start college now, some of our high school
Yeah.
kids who do some, so it may be inflated by,
50,000 or so, or
probably, yeah.
that much. Yeah, I thought it was.
Maybe.
So
It
what
was-
happens to the funds for individuals who homeschool?
They just don't count. Like they aren't counted by any school, so we lose those funds.
Okay.
So if you've got a kid
So
living,
nobody's getting funds.
yeah,
for
nobody's
those
getting funds for
students.
them. Yep. Yeah. So a student living in your district who homeschools, that's lost revenue. Yep. Good question. So anyway, Fund 10, that's the big one. The other funds here, Fund 21. So the next little category of the yellow there, the only one of those that we have is Fund 21, and Fund 21 is our activities fund. So that would be like all of our athletics and activities. It would be like our clubs and student groups. So that's basically kind of a money in, money out kind of. So we don't contribute district funds to that, but it's a fund that we maintain. So again, it's a balanced budget, and the revenue in and the revenue out, we always budget it to match. Again, that's student fees collected and stuff like that. Fund 27, this is the other very large one. One thing to note on Fund 27 is the second line there, line 97, is a 0. So that's ending fund balance. So that's a law. You have to have a balance of 0 at the end of the year with Fund 27. You can't keep a fund balance in Fund 27. So every year you have to 0 that out. And then also the next one in there, or line 99. Go ahead.
Sorry, so the funds that we transfer, do we also transfer funds to 21 then?
No, we
Nothing.
don't. Yep.
So that's all.
That's just money in and money out from like student fees and
Really?
things like that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that's been there forever. That's just a fund that's been there.
Okay.
Fund balance is 0, and then the transfers in is at $640,000 from Fund 10 that we project that we'll put in to balance the budget at the end of the year. Last year, you can see we put in $618,000. The year before, $570,000. So that's just our budget we project for this year. You can see a lot of these categories here. We don't, we have zeros. We don't really. They don't impact our district. Page 3. Line 119, again, that's our categorical state aid that comes specifically for special education. So you can see it's $243,000. And our total budget for special education is just over $1 million. So you can see that that's why it requires that fund transfer every year. You can see we get some federal and DPI grants there as well. That's a pretty decent chunk, $183,000. And then our expenditures for special education is, basically the curriculum and the instruction, the teachers. That's all. That's really what it is. Equipment sometimes, many times.
What's the expenditure under business administration?
What line?
155. It looks like it took a big jump.
Yeah, that might be. Some of that might be CISA, and some of it might be our. Is that like the office of things that go on underneath the director of special education?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to say. I have a guess what it might be, but I don't want to say because I might be wrong.
This should be what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the nice thing is doing the budget too. I want to mention this, that the fact that after the referendum we updated the teacher compensation this spring was a huge benefit because we could put in real expenses for Fund 10. Because a lot of times you're projecting this time of year, I don't know what salaries are going to go for, how much they're going to go up next year. We have real data. So everything, and then Lori did an amazing job calculating all the salary, but also the FICA and the retirement and stuff like that. Yep. So it was all accurate. Fund 38 and 39 is debt service. So this is where you can see, okay, if you look at line 171, you'll notice 2021-22, notice how the big jump there? So the year before was 9.3 million, and then I'm sorry, what am I looking at here? No, that's not what I meant to say. Oh, for the year before, the reason it was so big, 9.3 million, is because we refinanced and paid off everything. That's what we paid off. That we paid off all the bonds that year. But anyway, what the difference is? 21 to 22 and 20 to this current year, you see it drops from 1.635 million to 978,000. That's where we over levied that fund last year, and now this year we're not over levying it, and instead we over levied, or we got the referendum in Fund 10. So that's where that comes in. Back to Greg's question. And again, the 38 and 39 expenses, that's just all our payment schedule for our debt payments. So that's all very accurate. And then the next one, Capital Projects Fund, again, that's Fund 46. And So that shows, if you look at the fund balance, we've been building that up, and we had it up to 1.5 million last year. And right now it's showing, so we had a couple $100,000 left in there that's projected to pay off we got two more payments on the roof as we go, I believe.
It might be 3.
Might be 3, okay. But we just, at the end of this fiscal year now, we had money that we transferred into Fund 46 again. And so we transferred about $350,000 in there. And the reason is $250,000 was sort of projected to pay for the roof. We knew that we needed that money to go in there to pay for the roof. And then we had the other $100,000 was the bus that we didn't buy. So we were going to pay about $100,000 for a bus. We ended up not being able to buy it in fiscal year 21-22. So that's why we're moving that money into 46, and then we're projecting to buy more than one bus this year. So that big number there, that fund balance in 22-23, that 619 or that 569, I should say, a bunch of that's going to get paid down, close to
about 400.
not zero, but it's going to go way down here in the next.
Or not even. It should go 200.
Yeah, in the next month or so, a bunch of that's going to go down. Food service fund has a lot of money in it still. You can see the fund balance there. And again, that's a little bit of, that one was a tough projection of like how much money in and out this year with kids paying for meals again. That's going to be, so we went back and looked at old data, from a few years ago. Of course, you can't look at 1920 with the pandemic, but you had to look at old data and see, and so that's a projection there. So that's the best guess estimate. Fund 80, community service, that's like community education. That's also Junior Warriors childcare is the big one in there. So you can see there's a fund balance, and then the revenue. 30,000 of that is we levied it from local taxes is 30,000, and the other is projected income from Junior Warriors. The child care coming in, and a lot of that been going on. And community theater is a few $1,000s too. Yep. So. And then the bottom, those funds in the 90s, we don't have any funds related to that. So that is the. Yeah, and now you flip the page, Fund 60. So Fund 60 is not included in this spreadsheet. So I mentioned this spreadsheet that I'm having you look at is different than the one we've used the last few years, but this is one, when we worked with Baird this year and I talked to them, they said, this is the one that the DPI kind of likes or recommends, and they were going to eventually move us towards using this. And I said, well, I'm brand new this year, I'm a blank slate, so I said, let's just go for it now and start using and there were some real benefits to this. Anyway, doing it this way, that'll be nice when it comes time to finalize it and upload it to the state. It'll feed right out of this, so it'll be awesome. So that's the part that Lori is excited about, and we're both excited about. So, but anyway, there's a little disclaimer in the bottom. Fund 60 is not included, and so that's why we have a separate page, because Fund 60 is basically, again, it's not a school fund. We don't put money into it, but it's something that we maintain. It's the scholarship fund. So all the money in there over the years is from donations and gifts, and the money that goes in is a donation. The money that goes out is scholarships. So it's just tracking, the money in and money out. Again, we don't put any money into it. So that's just a separate aside. So I just, use the format from past years for that one. Then this next, we don't need to go through this next document. I just wanted you to see it. So the document that we went through is what's required minimum detail to get approved for the board. This next one here, this is what will go in the paper. So before we do the annual meeting, we have to publish our projected budget. So this is the stripped down, simplified looking part. This is what goes into the newspaper. So I just put it in there for your reference just to see. So it's the same information, just a lot less detail.
Is there a way to add like the mill rate projection onto that?
Well, so if you flip the page,
That's probably the first thing people are going to look at.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we can add. Yeah, and I think we have added that. Maybe not the last 5 or 6 years, but I think in years past we have. And because I think that's important, I agree with you. That's going to be a question people have: is what are they doing? The nice thing, if you flip to page 3, there's a little summary on the back, and it has the levy summary of what funds are coming out of the different, and it does show. The nice thing is it shows total levy from prior year. Does show a negative. The they're going from 9.47 down to 9.27 is a negative 0.17%. So that does show. But yeah, I agree that we could add in there the actual levy that we're projecting. So that's just for, and same thing with these graphs in the back is just for your reference, just for, to see, just for effect. The one that's the levy summary, about 3 pages in, that's the one that shows how we levied a lot for debt service last year and not so much this year, but then Fund 10 is the big one this year. So any other questions or?
I know we had talked about having the lunch person come in.
September, I think. I think more September. We talk like getting once the school year gets started.
And maybe this is a question more for then. I don't know, but can the food service funds be used for like a school store or anything like that?
For a school store?
Could turn into revenue for something else or
yeah, they have
activities?
to be. Yeah,
Okay.
it's all the funds are it's very strict about what they have to be specifically used for. Yep.
Well, remember, she's getting the dishwasher out of there.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah,
Right.
that'll help some too. Yep.
and now that we're not having federal funds, that's probably going to change that balance anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one that's going to be interesting with everything being back to kind of normal, quote unquote. It's hard to project.
There's still federal funds, just not like there were.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's still mainly federally funded. It's
Right.
just that it's not free for everybody. Yep.
I was going to
Yep.
say, boy, it'd be nice to have the strings cut off of our hands.
Yeah. So, any other questions about the preliminary budget?
Well, Chris and Lori, thank you for putting all that together for the first time.
Yeah,
Lori,
it's-
thanks for the help. It seems like, from my chair, that we're in a totally different world than we've been in for the last year seemed a little looser, but prior to that, money was always tight.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've noted that too. I said in my entire career, never been in a situation where, now being new in this chair, it's like we're in a situation where we're trying to manage some surplus appropriately, which is almost, you want to say almost just as hard to do with state budgeting, but at the same time, I'll take that problem any day of the week over the other problem for sure.
well,
So,
that wall has been built with bricks from previous administrators and their conservative
that's right. Yep.
Management, so
That
hats
is
off to them guys.
100% correct. I mean, there's been, some very careful planning done the last few years, Dr. Ernst, to be able to smooth that referendum in, and yeah, over the years, the fiscal responsibility that our prior superintendents had, and yes, and I'll even, I will say, Mr. Air, come and take a peek at this as well and say, hey, pick it apart and look at it, and kind of take your experience and wise eye at it, and he came and helped a little, looked at it too. So it was nice to be able to draw on those different resources to.
Was he like, well, what the heck, this is too easy?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah. Different problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
It definitely wasn't.
What's that? Well, if you had seen the little chair I sat in, you'd be.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
No, it was good. It was a very good learning experience.
Yeah, it was good. Very good. And like I said, we learned some different processes. We had Baird that we've been checking in and assisting with us too, and then some processes that kind of help automate at the end. So it was a lot together. Lori and I had a lot of together time on the front end, but on the back end, getting it all uploaded to the sheets and to the state is going to be a lot more automated now. So that's cool.
Needless to say, we started at Fund 80 because we worked our way backwards because they were
Yeah.
much
From
easier
easy
to
to
do.
hard.
Yep. We worked up to the big one.
Yeah.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 22-23 preliminary budget. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Next item of business is the approval of our hires.
Okay, so this was exciting because I was adding names into the notes here yet today. So we've got a couple in the superintendent notes. Brian Erdrich, who resigned from his position at the end of the year in June, has agreed that he would help us out, or would like to, committed for at least the first semester. So he has signed a contract to teach in ELA, basically the classes that he was teaching before for the first semester. With the straits that we're in, we understand, and we're very grateful to have him, and very happy to have him want to continue. He would have continued if it hadn't been for his choice to pursue other things, but he has thought twice about it and said I would commit for at least the first semester. So that helps us, gives us some time to pursue some other options for second semester, which Mr. Melberg has been doing. So, do you want to do them one at a time, or do you want to?
Let's do them all together.
Okay, so Brian Erdrich for high school or junior senior high school ELA, and then there were some interviews done by Mrs. Anderson last week for paraprofessionals. We had a few spots. We have one more that's not yet filled. There's maybe been some offers in conversation, but no one has quite agreed yet. So, but I do have two. So I do have Heather Stream, paraprofessional for junior warriors primarily, and then she will do a little bit of special education time each day, helping with that as well. So Heather Stream for a paraprofessional at the elementary, and then Denise Severson, also a paraprofessional at the elementary in the special education department. So those two have agreed and have signed contracts. And then development yet today, Friday and today. So we have Mrs. Rachel Tureen. We are hiring as a 6th grade ELA and reading teacher. And so we explored this option, and this will allow an opportunity for Mrs. Niles to make a transfer over to the junior senior high school and teach 8th and 9th grade science, which is something she was expressing an interest and willingness to do. And so anyway, so that's helps fill another couple district needs there as well. So we got Brian Erdrich, Heather Stream, Denise Severson, and Rachel Tureen.
I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the new hires.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve our new hires as listed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is consideration approval of resolution to open Fund 46 bank account.
So last week, like I said, Lori and I spent a lot of time together working on the budget. Lori brought up, so we need to make, so when the fiscal year ends June 30th, we need to make a transfer of any funds, if we're going to Fund 46. We've got the month to do it. So this is still a 21-22 transaction. So we've got till the end of this week to make that transfer that I talked about into Fund 46. And anyway, our local bank, which was Huntington, is not local anymore, and so we're still working with them, and we have our Fund 46 account with them. Lori talked to me about opening an account with our First Bank of Baldwin here locally in Clear Lake for Fund 46, still keeping the other one as well, but having the ability to transfer money into that bank, setting up a 46 account there, and just the ease of, with the quickness of some of the transactions that need to happen in the next few weeks, getting that money transferred in this week. She said it's sure nice if I can literally go down to the bank and bring them a check. Mm-hmm. Or in a few weeks when I want to pay, I can go and I can withdraw the money and we can wire it that, rather than, dealing with a bank in Michigan. So
Right, the first one was more like an investment account because we weren't using it for 4 years, so.
Sure.
That's what it was, and it still is.
Yeah.
So I have to call and send me this amount.
Yeah.
I move to approve to open a Fund 46 bank account at the First Bank of Baldwin in town.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is consideration and approval of junior high school character education resource.
Okay, so this is something that we wanted to put on the agenda with some urgency instead of waiting until August 8th, because if it's approved, Mr. Melberg would like to proceed with scheduling the staff training that goes with it. So we didn't want to wait if we didn't have to, so we thought, well, this would be a nice opportunity. So I'll let Mr. Melberg explain what the program is, and I believe there's a sheet in there
that I think I
that has
in everybody's folder. That's just the quote that we
the
got
price.
from 7 cents. But briefly, last year, the board had expressed some interest in doing some more character education stuff. Dr. Ernst and I brought in a guest speaker, which everything was great, but him and I and many of the staff members agreed that if we're going to have an impact on some character education stuff, it has to be more than 1 day a year. So we'll put together a crew of 4 staff members that researched a number of different character education programs this spring. they felt that 7 Mindsets was the strongest and fit our needs the best. Been working with a gal at 7 Mindsets to come up with a price for us, and we've gone back and forth on a 1-year option, a 3-year option, and a 5-year option. Chris and I decided that this 3-year option was probably the best bang for our buck, and it gives us 3 years to commit to this program, and then revisit it at the end of 3 years to see if it's something that we move forward with or if we go a different direction. So the 7 Mindsets will include total access to the online curriculum that we'll use during our wrap period 1 day a week. On Wednesdays is the plan right now, where the focus is on a different one of the 7 Mindsets for that week, and the curriculum is designed for each age level. So if we have a 7th grader right now, we'll have stuff for them every Wednesday their 7th grade year, different lessons with the same mindsets their 8th grade year, and again their freshman year, so it's age appropriate for each of those. It also includes coaching sessions online, and then the one big one, at least to get us kick-started, and why we have it on the agenda tonight, is they're going to bring somebody in to do a staff training in person to kind of kick this thing off for us. Questions?
So we're thinking this would be paid for by ESSER?
So part of this would be paid for by the Get Kids Ahead grant initiative. Was going to pay for about $9,000 to $10,000 of this, and then the rest would come out of ESSER. And one of the reasons that we went with this is they gave us a discount for paying it all up front. We thought that would be a good use of some of this ESSER money.
We also thought it'd be good to commit for 3 years. We want to commit to buying into the program. We're not just going to try it for a year and then have it go away. We want to commit to it.
Thinking if we're using ESSER, why don't we do 7?
7 years?
Well,
I don't want to overcommit though. I don't want to get too far into this and say, hey, we need to do, it's time to upgrade or do something different.
Where are we at?
We did talk about that. We just thought we want to try it for 3 years, and if at that point reevaluate, we thought, well, there's a chance that we try it and it's not everything that we wanted it to be, and then we don't want to overcommit to it. But we thought after 2 years, we have 2 years to spend ESSER money. We could go back and recommit for 5 or 7 after next year is what we're thinking. So that was kind of what we had in mind.
2 questions. One, what are the outcomes of this program?
The outcomes of the program is to, one, I don't want to number these, but ultimately what we're looking for, or what they're selling us on, is that behaviors are going to decrease, which is going to increase the effectiveness of our teaching in the classroom. But ultimately what we're trying to get at is that we are graduating well-rounded individuals is our ultimate goal. Is that going to be measurable? They tell me yes. I'm not convinced that that's measurable, but
You knew where I was going, number 2.
Yep.
Exactly how are we going to measure? Because there's whether they like it or not, there's whether or not you can see it. So I think the bigger thing is what are the metrics, or what can we attach it to?
But I also think you have to trust the professionals in the building that they're seeing a difference happening with our kids.
There's quantitative and qualitative.
Right.
So it's just what is going to be the measure that comes back to the board to say when we have to renew this, that this had an impact.
Yep. So I would lean towards this. There's more qualitative there, but there is. They do have some data surveys that they're putting out regularly with the kids, and their responses. We're supposed to get real-time data on where our kids are mentally on each of these 7 mindsets. So can we measure those? It looks like we can. I don't want to.
Well, and it depends on
that I can bring you something until I see this in action.
That's why I was just kind of wondering what the behaviors are, because if the behaviors align with discipline, GPA, something like, how do they actually connect? So you have something.
One of the things that we do, we do surveys over the years, whether it's mental health surveys or like youth risk behavior surveys. We've been doing that for years. So that's where my mind goes, is perhaps we could look at, if we track changes in our youth risk behavior survey. At the elementary, it's got a different name. It's not YRBS, but it's a different name that Mrs. Millar has been doing that we'll continue to do that. Perhaps we could, that would give us maybe some metrics to show some improvements there, along with, maybe discipline data or other things like that. That's a good question.
Maybe they should have a free trial for the board members' families.
Well, and there's some future stuff in here as well, which I think is huge for our staff as well,
And
with the mindsets.
one of the things too, like when you said what are the intended outcomes too, we think about like when we talk about character ed, the elementary is we've tried to make that a focus, and we talk about bullying and anti-bullying, and there is no good anti-bullying. It's a pro-character. That's what's effective, is building empathy and pro-social skills in kids. That's what prevents bullying. You can chase your tail trying to catch bullies after they act inappropriately, but what's the biggest culture changer is things like this, to try to promote pro-social positive behaviors.
I can tell you, I've been looking at this stuff myself at home, and to bring something to the board like this, and it's not easy finding curricular with it, and it's a good package, if you ask me, from what I've been seeing.
Well, I'm not saying it's not a good package. I just keep thinking of
No, you don't
the
see
message to the community and what we're doing, and proving that it's impactful.
I think it'll be a lot more impactful than having some speaker come into the gymnasium and speak for a day and then walk away.
Go ahead.
So, and it's a chunk of change, but then I had to remind myself, well, this is 7 through 12. This is a 7-12 curriculum. This isn't just books for the freshmen. This is and it's a big impact too.
Yeah, the finances was not an issue. It's just getting better at telling our story to the community.
Agreed.
I think we need someone like this for the elementary school too. I don't know if they can go do something like that or not.
They do, but I think part of the idea is get it implemented, and then let's see what we think, and maybe move it down some levels too.
And the elementary already has their guidance program that they do, which is kind of
Right. Well,
already.
especially 5th and 6th grade.
But-
I can see it,
Yeah, you can never do enough positive
I was thinking 7th and 8th, but
with
okay.
middle school. Yep, that's what's such an important such an important time. Yeah.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the junior senior high character education resource.
Second.
Been properly moved in second to approve the character education resource. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is future agenda items. Anybody have anything they want to put on the agenda? All right, then we'll move on to the next item of business, and I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
All right, thank you so much.